For just 5 cents a day, you could save this dog's life. Just kidding. This is Black Rooster Network. Alright, good morning everyone. How's it going? Couldn't get much sleep, so I thought I'd get started on this podcast. And lot to cover. So little time. So I'm going to run through a couple of things that have happened since I did the last one. I won't get into too much detail because obviously I don't like politics, but one of them is new President Trump. A lot of people ask me how I feel about that, and honestly, whatever, man. I can't honestly say that things would have really been better with Hillary, or make no mistake, man. I'm not supportive of, like I said before, I'm not supportive of either one of them, but whatever, man. I'll say this, look, for those of you, a lot of people are really, really upset, when they refuse to accept him as president. And I'm not saying that you should, to each their own. But just give you this something to consider. It's not really the president that makes our nation, it's us. So, just keep that in mind. We make our nation, not the president that really defines us. Sure, he's pretty much virtually the leader, I guess you can say, but just we can overthrow him hypothetically if we needed to. So, that's what makes this country great. So it just hits you with something like that. Now, in other news, too, something I had to throw out there for myself. My Seahawks beat the Patriots, and I've been waiting 2 years since that stupid interception. So, go Hawks on that one. And I just wanted to get into, I had a lot of real nice experience with the elderly this week and last week. Some very interesting elderly. There's a lot of interesting elderly people. And, man, one guy that was just straight weird, and I'm going to get into all 4 of those with them, just because, man, they're just so damn interesting. So I'll get started with one guy. So this one guy, I was just going to throw the trash. Simple going to throw the trash. And he's there out in his balcony, and this guy's not that old, he was just kind of weird. And he goes, hey there, how's it going, man? And I'm like, hey, how's it going, man? And he's one of those guys that, man, you get stuck there forever, man. I had somewhere to be, and he was there. He kept me there for at least an hour and a half, and he was just telling me, somehow we got to talking about cremating. And he goes, yeah, I really want to do cremating. My dad was cremated, he goes, but I want to make sure that I'm buried. I don't want to be I don't want my ashes spreaded. I said, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. I said, because my sister and I were joking about that. He goes, no, it's the wrong thing to do. He goes, my dad put it in his will that he wanted to be cremated and have his ashes spread across the ocean. And I was like, oh, wow, really? I was like, nice. How did that go? He goes, it was a disaster. He said, we went into a plane and we opened the window and we ended up throwing his ashes, and his ashes ended up going out the window straight into the jet engine into a vacuum. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. And I told him too. I didn't really think about it, but I told him, I was like, yeah, I said, what way did you really think that was gonna go, man? You're going like 1,000 miles an hour. God knows, I don't even know. Whatever 500. I don't know what plane speed is, but it's not gonna glide onto the ocean, man. You're better off in a boat. And he goes, no, yeah, we really didn't really think that one through, but yeah, so it's kind of a ironic story. My dad ends up in a vacuum. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. And eventually I got away from him, but it's just like, man, and sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, where do I run into these people, man? So that was just the other one. The next 2, I said those 4, but I may only get into 2 of them. Nah, screw it, I'll get into all 3. So the next one, this guy tells me he's a animal trainer. So I'm like, cool, man. So I said, you ever been to the snake farm? I like the snake farm. The zoo's good too, but me, I really don't like big crowds or anything like that. So I'm a real fan of small crowds, and the snake farm has that. So I'm like, alright, cool. So I said, yeah, the snake farm, man. I said, it's very small. It's just like the zoo, but it's a lot smaller. And he goes, nah, man, I haven't been there. And then I told him, I was like, yeah, I haven't been there in at least a good while either. I mean, I think it was like a year and a half. But when we were leaving, I said they just built this. They were gonna build this sea otter exhibit, so that's pretty cool. And right away, his eyes blow up. Like his eyes are like they get like really giant. And I was like, and I forgot to mention when he came in too, he had these scratches on his neck. And so he was like, he goes, I freaking hate sea otters. And I was like, really? Why? I mean, it's freaking sea otter. I mean, well, I mean, I was just curious. I should have never asked that, but man, he went off. So basically, he tells me the story that he was he like I said, he's an animal trainer for some zoo out in freaking where did he say? Oh, I don't even remember. It's another state, and he says that he's basically he was feeding the sea otter exhibit, the sea otters that they had, and I guess it was mating season or something like that. So he gathers all the sea otters, and there's this one otter, Kofu. Never forget the name. He said Kofu. He said Kofu didn't want to come out of the water. So he foolishly goes into the water, and Kofu's just floating there from what he says. So all of a sudden, the sea otter goes underwater, and he says he can't find Kofu anywhere. So he's in there with a bucket of food, and, the sea otter just out of nowhere, he says, I mean, it sounds like it was just out of a movie, but it should be a shark or a gator, but it's not, but it's a sea otter. So he says a sea otter comes out from his back and just jumps on him and starts scratching him and just really wailing on him. And for some reason, I could not stop laughing. I mean, just because, I mean, you look at Google, I mean, Google sea otter right now. Just go to Google Images, doesn't matter. Just go to Google and Google sea otter. Look at that face, man. I mean, can you really think that the animal is capable of anything? And then he tells me, I think he said Illinois. I swear he said Illinois. Yeah, I knew it was a big city. So then he tells me he was the first man in the state of Illinois to be attacked by a sea otter. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, how do you know that? And he goes, oh, the doctor told me. So, I mean, I really don't, I really wouldn't believe his story. I really would not believe him. I would have no credibility if I did not see those scars. I mean, they were pretty, like, they seemed pretty distinct. I mean, even then he may be pulling one over on me, but you would just have to have met him, man. And I was like, God. So, the next one I met, this one is just actually really quick. This lady's telling me that she has old lady, a battery in her butt. And I was like, oh, I said, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, that's crazy. I didn't even know they could do that or they did things like that. And so she gets up, she goes, yeah, feel it, look. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. No, go ahead, feel it. And I'm like, God, I said, nah, I really don't think I should. She goes, I insist. And I really hate it when people do that. Just leave it alone. So she goes, look. So she's standing there with her butt, in the air and everything. And I'm like, God, let me just do this real quick before somebody comes. So I take one finger and I feel it. And she goes, can you feel it? And I'm like, yeah, I feel it. Extremely awkward. And I was just like, God, I just didn't want to be there anymore. So I just wanted to get that one real quick. This one was the main one. This guy was awesome, man. I can't really disclose his name, obviously, because of, HIPAA and all that. But whatever, man. So I'm helping out oral surgery, and I meet this man. And right off the bat, he looks at me, and he's staring at me. The lady calls him back, and he's staring at me. And this lady comes up to me, the worker lady. She's like, hey, he wants you to work in there. He says he knows you. And so I go in there, and right off the bat, he holds his arms open. And he's like, he's like, Avery Stackhouse, how you doing, my man? And I was like, I think you have me confused with somebody else. My name's actually Tony Garza. And he goes, what? I'm like, yeah. My name's Tony Garza. I said, I don't think we've met before. He goes, yeah. He goes, didn't you used to work at, in Rhode Island at, Joey's, what did he say? Joey's Bakery? And I was like, no, man. I'd never been to Rhode Island. So I've been in Colorado. And he goes, man. He goes, you look so familiar. He goes, I used to go to Joey's Bakery all the time, man. And there was a kid just like you working out over there. and a really beautiful kid, man. Like, he's really nice to talk to. He would talk to me all the time for hours, and I was like, yeah, I don't know him. So we're over there. He's getting a couple of teeth pulled out, and he's there talking to me. Very interesting guy. He used to do a lot of underground work for the mob. I won't get too much into detail about that. But this whole time, he's calling me Avery Stackhouse. And it's not just Avery, it's Avery Stackhouse. She's all, Avery Stackhouse, I really don't like President Trump. I don't like Hillary either. She's a hag. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. This country's going downhill. And in between, I'm reminding him, I'm like, yeah, it's actually Tony. And he finally goes, huh? I said, yeah, my name's actually Tony Garza, remember? And then he comes closer and he goes, and he puts his hand on my back. He goes, all, Avery Stackhouse, when you get my age, you give zero fucks about life. And I looked at him, I couldn't help but laugh. And he was like, and I was like, well, yeah, so I can definitely see that. He goes, you're a good kid, Avery Stackhouse. He goes, just, be good, do things the right way. He goes, I never did things the right way. He goes, I grew up very rough in a rough neighborhood, and you're a good kid. So I leave the room, and I'm getting things ready for him because we pull out his teeth. It's a success. And the doctor's asking him what he's allergic to, his what he wants for pain medication. And then he goes, yeah, doc, I'm allergic to penicillin. And he goes, where's Avery Stackhouse at? And then he goes, who? He goes, Avery Stackhouse, where's he at? And so they call me in there because there's only one guy. So he goes, Avery Stackhouse, man, where'd you go? And I was like, oh, I went to go, get things ready for you, man. And he was like, oh, man. He goes, Doc, you're really lucky working with this kid. This kid is awesome. So I help him out, and he goes, you know what, Avery Stackhouse? It's been a real pleasure talking with you. He goes, you going to be here next time I come back? So I didn't have the heart to tell him I wasn't, but I was like, yeah, I'll be here the next time you come back. And he goes, all right, everybody, you guys need to give Avery Stackhouse a raise. And so he leaves, and I was like, the people that I meet in this field, man. But it's pretty rewarding, though. You meet a lot of people. So, like I said, wish I could have more, but I've already gone over the limit. So maybe I can pick up a little bit where I left off in the next podcast. But sorry to cut it short, but I'll catch y'all later. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.